What's up, YouTube? This is your girl Megan. Welcome back to the Hood Astro Queen, to all of my returning subscribers. But if this is your first time on my channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way in, okay? Because I know you're going to be here to stay. You might as well join the fam, okay? You know you want to. So, today, on this beautiful Monday, I want to talk about not necessarily the incident that happened with Ayesha Curry, but something that would kind of put that incident into context, as I am going to go into a birth chart reading of both Ayesha and Steph Curry's birth chart, as well as a few synastry aspects. Now, if you don't know who Ayesha Curry is, she is the wife of world renowned basketball player Steph Curry. The two are, I mean, they're a really cute couple, like a pretty popular couple. To be honest, I don't know anything about sports, not really. And so all I know of them is like what I would see here and there on the Shade Room. However, last week she went on to Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk, where she revealed that, with Steph receiving all of this attention, right, from women, him being this world renowned mega basketball player, he has women throwing the conch at him left, right, and center. However, she's noticed that over the years, the attention that she's received from the opposite sex has dwindled down to nothing. And of course, it kind of has her questioning herself, feeling like maybe I fell off, maybe I'm just undesirable. And not necessarily to say I want to be in a relationship with someone else or I'm looking for another man or anything of that nature. It would just be nice to know that I'm still beautiful. Now, you had the internet, particularly the men, okay, go crazy. They're saying, oh my goodness, she's a supreme thought. When really, just a few months ago, I thought she was the poster woman of what, quote unquote, wifey material. But anywho, nowadays, they're thinking she's a thought or she wants to be a thought and she wants all this attention. And her husband is arguably one of the best basketball players ever. What an ingrate. What an ungrateful bitch, right? And yeah, but meanwhile, we have the whole side chick culture, which literally benefits nothing but men, right? Let's not even get started. Don't even get me started there. In my personal opinion, obviously, I understood what she meant, but it was kind of odd to me because, as stated before, a few months ago, maybe last year sometime, I do remember her going public stating that, she likes to leave something for their imagination when she's getting dressed. Kind of in a way, kind of downing women who choose to wear more revealing clothing, which is kind of where this running theme of her being like the quote unquote quintessential wifey material came from. You know how men are. They like their women clothed in turtlenecks unless they're fucking, right? They like the fuck thoughts, but the quote unquote wifey material, the women like Ayesha Curry and whatever, they put on this pedestal because they, if you ask me, participate in pick me culture, which is like, oh, look at me. I cover up. I like to cook. Look at me. I'm a wife. I do this for my man. Whatever. So, when this revelation came about, I'm like, interesting. Not to necessarily say that, you can't be attractive or receive attention being quote unquote classy. But it's just very interesting that it kind of seems like the very women she was downing not too long ago, like, you kind of want to be like them. So, like, you kind of secretly, envy that kind of attention they might receive. You know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, let me just state this up front because when I did my Sierra and Russell reading, it contradicted a lot of how they reviewed in the mainstream, right? And therefore, I got all kind of comments. You're not a real astrologer. You're just giving your opinion. This is trash. You're trash. And then people just nucking and bucking and ready to fight like no limit soldiers, okay? I took a look at their charts and I saw some things that were pretty, controversial to say the least. And like I said, it deviates from how they're viewed in the public. They're a very well liked couple, but I also have my, you know, inclinations based off of what I see in their charts. I have no dog in the fight. As stated before, I don't even really watch sports. So, I don't have a vested interest in painting one picture or another. I'm literally just reading what I see. Now, if you are interested in engaging in an educated kind of dialogue about astrology aspects, how different energies can be manifested, right? Feel free. But if you just gonna be a triggered little bitch in the comments, leave now, baby. Leave now. Leave now. Don't even waste your time, okay? Cause your ass is getting blocked. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So, Steph Curry was born on March 14th, 1988 at 1:51 p.m. in Akron, Ohio. I was surprised that they had an actual birth time for him. I usually go to astrocharts.com, and if they do post a birth time, it'll note the birth time accuracy. So sometimes the accuracy will be poor, but in this case, it's excellent. So I feel totally comfortable using it. So this makes him a Pisces sun, Aquarius moon, Leo rising. Now, him being a Leo rising isn't really a surprise to me, just because Leo is the sign of the entertainment industry, of the celebrity. And on the ascendant, it can actually make somebody very, very popular, especially amongst like their peers and, and which he is. There are tons of basketball players, but he goes up there with one of the more noteworthy ones, right? But then the first thing that kind of had me go, huh? What was it? Was the fact that because he's a Leo ascendant, and I do use whole house system, Scorpio is on his fourth house, right? And particularly with him being, because he's still a part of the Pluto or in Scorpio generation. So his Pluto is sitting in its home sign of Scorpio in his fourth house. Now, the fourth house deals with your upbringing, right? But it also deals with your home, like the home, your state of being, your emotional state of being. And this could bring about a lot of secrecy towards this part of, or this area of your life. A lot of Leo ascendants, just in particular, tend to be very closed off when it comes to their family life. And there's a lot of things that they hold very near and dear, to their chests, and they're not very open and public with, which made me wonder, because, there are a lot of things, just about a lot of celebrities that we don't particularly know. But like I said, it kind of just made me go, interesting. Because they seem to be like this very kind of what you see is what you get type of couple. But it does point towards there being things that are kind of, secretive, so to speak. And then taking a look at the aspects that his Pluto is making, particularly his Venus opposing his Pluto, as his Venus is at the 9th degree of Taurus, which falls in his 10th house. Your 10th house deals with public, like the public image. It deals with your reputation. Now, this is something that was similar to what I saw in the whole Sierra and whatever his name is, Russell's chart when I did their reading. Sierra and Russell both have Venus, or one of them have Venus in their 10th house, okay? And this can create somebody who is well liked. So in Stephen Curry's situation, somebody who is well liked, but also somebody who, even their marriage or their relationship, their relational status is kind of what they're known for too. You know what I mean? Somebody who kind of has like a very public relationship. And with it sitting in opposition from that fourth house, taking it back to my original point of there being a lot of secrets attached to it, it can kind of point out there being more than what meets the eye. Venus in opposition to Pluto also brings about lots of power struggles within a marriage or a relationship. It also brings about a lot of intense experiences. Oppositions are one of the more disharmonious aspects. So it can create a lot of unpleasant experiences by way of a need for power, manipulation, control. There could be a lot of control and manipulation, or I mean, at the very least, a lot of calculation, right, that goes into one's image and the way one projects themselves out into the world with this get up in Steph's chart. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this sense of power struggle, right, kind of transcended into his relationship with Ayesha also, especially with his Pluto being at the 12th degree of Scorpio. And that number 12 deals with sacrifice and victimization. So that was kind of like an eyebrow raiser for me. Now, with his Venus being conjoined to his Jupiter, like I said, in his 10th house, this makes for just like a money, like a jackpot money aspect where he's well taken care of financially, because you got to think about it. Taurus is all about, it's the natural ruler of the second house. So it deals with finances. It deals with, getting that money, that paper, upholding the status quo, but also setting the standard. And Steph definitely does, especially in his career. Setting that standard is like, a bomb ass basketball player who's accomplished so many things. And it points towards having a wife who is going to be well taken care of financially. You know what I mean? However, this could come at a price, as Steph's Mars, Neptune, and Saturn are in his 6th house of Capricorn, which that Mars and Saturn in the 6th house, especially in such a rigid sign like Capricorn. I mean, Capricorn is naturally governed by Saturn, produces, number one, somebody who makes their money by being like an athlete or somebody in the military, because that Mars energy particularly requires a lot of physical kind of physical labor, you know what I mean, when it comes to like the everyday work life routine. And it absolutely falls in line with that routine of an athlete. This placement can produce somebody who works long, grueling hours, who sticks to a very rigid schedule, especially as it pertains to diet and health and exercise. As you know, that 6th house does govern diet, health, and exercise, everyday routines. Somebody who follows a very rigid structured kind of routine. And it can also take a person away from the home. Like I said, that with that Saturn there, who, they're spending and they're giving a lot of themselves to this particular career. You know what I mean? And with these planets in his 6th house forming a trine to his Venus, it can produce somebody who, like I said, it can have a negative impact on the relationship by way of, him being kind of like having all of his time invested into other things, right? So there could be this sense of Ayesha feeling like, damn, I get it. My husband is a basketball player. He's making that bread, that shmoney. But a lot goes into that. And I think a lot of athletes, wives and spouses can vouch for that. It could be pretty lonely. But also with his Mars trining his Venus, there's a good possibility that Steph could actually be kind of like that rigid, like, I don't know, like a very rigid, kind of tough, no nonsense type of personality, even as it pertains to their relationship. It doesn't give me like very loving tease. Capricorn is all about like rigidity, and even on the more darker end, like meanness. Steph could potentially be a person who's not even like not that nice to her, especially when he's going through difficult transits to his 6th house. You know what I mean? Things like work, right? So in high pressure, high stress work environments, and he's and whatever happens in basketball, right? One person can get traded and you got all of these things going on, or maybe you got an injury. That's another thing, because Saturn in Capricorn deals with the bones and the teeth. There is a probability, let me see, especially with his sun squaring his Saturn, that he's not going to be able to do this forever, right? He's going through a lot of taxing experiences physically, even mentally, but it's affecting his everyday life and his ability to really interact with his wife, especially like I said, with his Venus trining his Mars and trining his Saturn. There's this sense of restriction or lack there. It could be a lack of warmness, a lack of affection, but she's feeling it, which makes sense why she would have these feelings and these kind of insecurities about like getting attention. So that really that's very telling to me. And Neptune in the sixth house of Capricorn can absolutely bring about a sense of secrecy. You know what I'm saying? Or things, like I said, being not really as they appear to be, as Neptune is the planet of illusions and secrets and things of that, even lies, deceit, deception. And with that Neptune trining his Venus, it could absolutely be things that we don't know about their marriage to the public, which is another reason why I had an issue with so many people. I mean, we can have a difference in opinion, but I mean, some of the reaction, it was like a visceral reaction when it came to people who didn't really agree with her. Y'all don't know, we don't know their relationship and the setup of the relationship and why she feels the way she does, the dynamics, the behind the scenes kind of things for you to just be dragging this woman like that over like her being vulnerable on a talk show. And looking at some of these aspects, just even Steph's chart, it's like before I even get to hers or any of the Synastry aspects, it's like, you know what I mean? Like I'm kind of sympathizing with her a little bit over here. Now his moon is conjoined to his Mercury in his seventh house. You know, that seventh house deals with your marriages, but as well as your business partnerships and things of that nature. And Aquarius, right, is on his descendant. So this could make him somebody who is very, the Aquarian energy can be very detached. And that's another thing that I kind of noticed when I found that he had two very personal planets in Aquarius. Because Aquarius can be, like I said, detached, like emotionally detached, disloyal and sensitive. These are kind of like the more negative manifestations of it. But it can also produce somebody who leans more towards like a alternative way of doing things. Like these people or people who have very strong Aquarian energy in their chart. And for a man, your moon can govern the mother, but also the way you deal with women. It's that feminine energy, right? So somebody who takes a more individualistic kind of approach to the way one deals with their spouse. Now, moon in the seventh house, typically because moon, is such a feminine planet, it can bring about just a natural, well, number one, a tendency to look for a partner to mother, to be able to mother you. Is it could create somebody, and especially in a male's chart, who had like a rather close relationship with their own mother. And then when they get married, that wife kind of steps into that motherly role, you know what I mean? And it makes them very dependent upon their wives and super, like emotionally, right? And super close. But it can also bring about like fame because, moon kind of does, it can bring fame and publicity. So once again, going back to there being this sense of like he and his wife being in the public, but then with Aquarius, it being placed in the sign of Aquarius, there's also, it's like a contradiction. So it could manifest in like moodiness, you know what I mean? There being a tendency to, for him to need space from Ayesha. And like I said, kind of even being emotional or coming off as like emotionally void of like, what she needs or kind of being emotionally closed off and kind of stoic. And then to kind of further illustrate this, his moon is squaring that fourth house Pluto baby, which kind of adds to this element of there being control issues there, like just outright control issues there. There being some very nasty behavior going on, and I don't know if it's necessarily with him or like if he's the one initiating it or doing it, but there's a lot of things about their marriage that doesn't sit well with me. And just like I said, looking at this chart is nothing I'm trying to make up and whatever, whatever. But looking at these aspects, my intuition is telling me it's a lot about the Currys we don't know, y'all. So, and that's another thing. Before you're quick to make everybody bagels, relationship goals, everything comes with a price, and that's just real shit. You know what I mean? His moon is also squaring his Venus. And this aspect can make one ignorant to the needs of other people. And even with his Mercury squaring Venus, it could create disagreements within the relationship, kind of like a nervous and tense kind of feel. Because there's a high, I guess you could say, proclivity with this aspect to misread your partner and misread their wants and their needs, and it can even muddle up your perception of one another. So yeah, like I said, this is just it's just interesting. But then also it could create somebody who has a very opinionated partner too, which is why I say I'm not sure which way the it goes, just because it could be on Steph's part, it could be on Ayesha's part, but yeah, and then particularly with that moon squaring Venus, it can bring scandal by way of being too loose-lipped, careless with your words, kind of socially awkward. And I think that would absolutely reflect Aisha's situation. Her, saying things, and especially with, this most recent situation, saying things and then kind of sticking your foot in your mouth and setting yourself up for a lot of like backlash and whatever and what have you. Now, Steph has his Chiron at the 23rd degree of Gemini in his 11th house, and it's opposing his sun, which, can deal with there being kind of like a duplicitous nature. Gemini is all about duplicity. It's, the twin. So a lot of times it's associated with like this kind of sense of like two-facedness, wishy-washiness, being hot then cold, left and right, but even mischievous, downright mischievous, immoral, and just fake. And there's this sense of there being an ability or for him to switch up. You know what I'm saying? Because with your son being your ego, and his son is in the 8th house, okay, in his 8th house of Pisces, which is all about what happens behind closed doors, secrecy. But then also I'm thinking too, with his Chiron in the 11th house, the 11th house deals with friendships, teams. He's on the basketball team. So I'm wondering if there's like a tendency for him to, even like while he's out with his friends or he's on the road, he's, doing games, to kind of like switch up and even cheat or become this like a completely different person, versus when he's around Ayesha. This can also create a tendency for a person to choose or place their friendships over their marriages too. But so that's interesting too. But like I said, there's kind of like something there. I wouldn't be surprised if he's cheating. And another indicator of this too, which kind of like doesn't help, is the fact that his 5th house is his Uranus is in his 5th house of Sagittarius, which is all about freedom, rebellion, independence. Let me see what aspects his Uranus is making. Oh Lord, his Uranus is opposing his Chiron. So yeah, oh yeah, he's definitely having affairs. He's definitely, maybe not full blown affairs. He's fucking other bitches is what I'm saying, y'all. And if you think Ayesha doesn't know this, you're stupid. Pretty much. So yeah, like it's just a lot. It's like a whole lot of, and I haven't even gotten to her chart. So Ayesha was born March 23rd, 1989. I'm just kind of gonna go over it, in sections. I'm not gonna spend that much time on her chart because I really do want to get to these synastry aspects to kind of bring my point full circle. But Ayesha was born in Toronto, Canada. I didn't know that. which makes her sun fall in Steph Curry's ninth house. And that ninth house deals with long distance travel. It can deal with you marrying or being with somebody who, especially with his Juno in the ninth house, also being with somebody who is like of a different nationality, from a different culture, a foreign land. They could have even met in college or in some type of vocational school. I'm not sure. You guys drop in the comment below to clear that up if you can. But yeah, so this makes her an Aries. She's an Aries sun, Libra moon, with her moon conjoined to her black moon Lilith. Now her birth time isn't stated on here, but having her moon conjoined to her black moon Lilith in Libra says a lot. Black moon Lilith in Libra brings about very complicated relationships, complicated marriages. It can create somebody who kind of enjoys being victimized, or who settles for being victimized by their partner, who puts up with like a lot of shit, right? That Libra in and of itself, I always say, can be a very codependent kind of sign. And I mean, dealing with a partner who just, I mean, to be quite honest, cheats. Excuse me, that Libra is all about indecisiveness. It's all about, I mean, like I said, even like love affairs, romantic love affairs. But then it can also produce somebody like, let's say if she and Steph Curry were to divorce or something, you know, hypothetically, the divorce would be catastrophic because it could create somebody who has a lot of their partners, rather their romantic partners, can turn into full blown relentless enemies. I'm talking litigation, because Libra does deal with the courts, on some child support type shit. Like, it can be serious, especially with that moon. You know, the moon can represent your mothering style, the way you nurture your children, whatever. So yeah, if they were to ever divorce, this shit would be a hot mess. But let's see, her son is opposed to her black moon Lilith. Yeah, and it could absolutely produce a partner who is like selfish, and there being some type of, like I said, power struggle. Somebody is being controlled within the relationship, and that's just point blank, period. Her sun is also squaring her Chiron, and her Chiron is in Cancer, the first degree of Cancer, which obviously can create issues with the family. Perhaps she had some problems with her family growing up, but it also explains, excuse me, there being a need for her to kind of start her own family. And they have three beautiful children together. So there's that. But then also, this could point towards her viewing Steph as her family. But then there's this sense of gullibility that comes along with this aspect too, especially with that Cancer influence, an ability to be manipulated. And because Cancer, the moon, really, because the moon governs Cancer, is a reflectant, or I think that's how you say it. It reflects whatever, you know, it's looking at. It can literally like mirror what it sees, and, you know, therefore be easily influenced to do things or to believe certain things. And yeah, so once again, it doesn't really help as far as disproving this kind of trend that I'm seeing here. And I would also wonder, with her sun squaring Chiron, if there's this sense of like resentment, even, like, not to say she doesn't love her kids, but like, especially with her being an Aries sun, like, if there's this theme of like, maybe she had kids before she was ready to, or she feels this kind of push and pull, like an internal struggle or conflict between her sense of individuality, right? Because that's what Aries represents, and then her family life, you feel me? But then also her Venus is squaring her Chiron. And her Venus is at the 29th degree of Pisces. That 29th degree is the anaretic degree, known as the degree of conflict, upheavals. It can bring about third party interference from situations. Her Venus is actually conjoined to her Mercury. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sister wife shit going on, like, that she knew about on the back end. And that's just real tea. Like this is, yeah. And her Venus is also squaring her Uranus, which can bring about a more alternative style of like relationship, something that's kind of unorthodox. Her Mars is conjoined to her Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. And you know, Mars in a woman's chart deals with the men that she attracts in her life, her husband, even. Um, and the number seven is all about illusions. And it could deal with them being with the man who is honestly a thought, a massive thought. That Gemini energy is massive thoughtism, and Gemini is the type of sign that tends to go both ways as far as sexual preference. Like I said, this is just speculation based off of what I'm seeing. Yeah, that's just true tea. Her Mars and Jupiter are forming a quincunx to her Neptune, once again reaffirming this whole theme of like there being some type of illusion, a duplicitous nature to her relationships. And I always say that Mars and Jupiter together, I mean, primarily the harsh aspects, but if they're conjoined, it can go either way. You know, conjunctions can play out in a positive respect or a negative respect, and it can bring about blackmail. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, especially in harsh aspects to this Neptune. I wouldn't be surprised if there were people on the back end like, oh, you know, hitting her up like, oh, girl, I fucked your man, girl. Let me know, you know, give me this and that. Or I'm going to go to TMZ. I'm going to go to the press and do. Also, with her moon, her black moon Lilith and her moon are squaring her Saturn. This brings about, I wouldn't even be surprised if she was depressed. Okay, if sis feels very much pressured, depressed, kind of ridden with a lot of responsibility by way of her marriage, her relationship. And I forgot to mention Steph's lunar nodal placements. Just like Ayesha, he is a Virgo South Node, Pisces North Node. So they both share the same lunar nodal placement, which is interesting because once again, with her Venus at the 29th degree of Pisces conjoined to her Mercury, this could point towards, I mean, Pisces is all about victimization. It's all about escapism. So yeah, like it just kind of reconfirms that there is something, things that they're not as they seem, y'all. They're not as they seem, and there's it kind of confirms that control issue thing too, also. And not for nothing, Steph's Virgo South Node is sitting in his second house, which makes him a Scorpio, or I'm tripping, Pisces North Node. I just wouldn't be surprised if it even came down to money too, like Steph being stingy with the money, you know, very controlling about what Ayesha could spend and what she couldn't spend. I just feel like their relationship is a mess, to be quite frank. Now, moving on into these synastry aspects, I'm going to go over just a few because this video is long enough. But some of the aspects that stuck out to me in particular are the fact that Steph's Saturn is squaring Ayesha's sun. So his Saturn is at the first degree of Capricorn, with Ayesha's sun being at the second degree of Aries, which can produce just a constricting or restrictive effect to where perhaps initially, once they got married, things were fine, but over time, it's like this dampening of the son's person, their ego, their free will, their identity, them feeling handcuffed, them feeling restricted, even depressed. You know what I mean? Or even controlling. It reconfirms the sense of, or this theme of there being a control pattern here. And it could point towards Steph actually being the one doing the controlling. Okay, his Uranus is squaring her Venus. Once again, with her Venus being at that 29th degree of Pisces, his Uranus in the fifth house Sagittarius, which reaffirms the whole concept of this man cheating. Okay, being a serial cheater, being very deceptive. That 29th degree does bring third party interference. So there's that. But then also his Saturn is squaring her Venus, which goes back and it kind of supports this theme of her not finding like the love and nurturement that she really wants from him, which obviously can make anybody insecure. So yeah, that's and her his ascendant is actually forming a trine to her Venus, which with him being a Leo ascendant, his Black Moon Lilith is also conjoined to his ascendant. This could create an opportunity for him to do like because he's a celebrity, he can kind of take advantage and do what he wants to do as it pertains to like other women or just in the it creates like a great opportunity for him to be this kind of like deceptive person. And I don't know if it's as much as him deceiving her as it is of both of them deceiving the public. But yeah, like it's all over their charts individually, their natal charts. In Synastry, they have lots of indicators of deception, control issues, and yeah, just it's a lot. So, with that being said, feel free to share your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns in the comment section below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the reading. Feel free to also suggest celebrities, because I'll look through the comments and, sometimes people will suggest covering a certain person and I'll look them up and I'll actually do the reading. So yeah, with that being said, make sure you practice unconditional self-love so that you can love others. And until next time, I holla.